First-time homebuyer disasters. Normally at this point in an Emily episode, we take one specific client example and walk you through it. But for first-time homebuyers, there just seems to be so many of them that I thought it would be better maybe to categorize them or give you, kind of 3 or 4 broad examples of homebuyer disasters so that you can avoid them or at least be prepared for them if they do happen. Keep in mind, I've been doing this for a very long time. Folks here have been doing it for a very long time as well. And over 18 years, seen tons of disasters, and kind of here are some of the common ones. Losing a job before the closing date. You get approved, you tell the bank you make, this is the kind of job that you have, this is how much money that you make, and then all of a sudden the bank says, okay, great, well, we're gonna call your employer, we're gonna verify this information, only to turn out that you've lost your job. You made an offer on a home, you've removed conditions, in fact the mortgage was moving all the way down to the law office, and then at the 11th hour you've lost your job and now you don't have enough income to qualify for the mortgage. It's a pretty big first-time homebuyer disaster. That's a pretty big disaster on any deal, not just first-time homebuyers. If we're talking about income, one of the disasters is that the income you put on your application is not the income that your employer says that you make, and some people don't really appreciate how significant this is. You might make a base salary plus some bonuses every year, and so in your mind, the amount of money that you make is the amount of income plus the bonuses from last year. A bank will look at that though and say, well, we only want to know what you get paid every 2 weeks. Your bonuses can be high, they can be low, and so if you want us to include your bonus income, we're going to need to look at the last couple of years of tax returns and average it out. Well, a disaster comes from you make an offer, you think you're approved, and all of a sudden you throw in your pay stubs and some tax returns and the bank goes, oh wow, you don't make that much money. You don't make as much money as you told us you made, and so therefore we're gonna bump it down, and guess what that means? We're gonna lower the mortgage amount. So that means you've got to come up with more down payment if you still want to do the deal. Kind of a bit of a disaster. The appraisal is less than the purchase price. That's always a real bummer when that happens. Somebody buys a property, everyone believes the property is worth what the offer was made for, and then the lender comes along and says, look, we'd like to do an appraisal on the property. The appraisal comes through and poof, it shows that the property is not worth what you're paying for it. The reason that's a disaster is because now if you made an offer to buy a property at $350,000 and it's worth $300,000, as far as the bank's concerned, they're only lending you money based on $300,000. You're going to have to come up with the other $50,000 plus the normal percentage down payment that you were going to put down in the first place. So that's a huge disaster. But the big one that we find, which there's no really way to get around it because it just sort of happens, but when credit scores drop, you may have made an offer on a property 2 months ago, and it's scheduled to close maybe next month. And in the meantime, you've had a collection show up on your credit bureau, or you've missed some, the last 2 payments on your credit cards because maybe you're starting to buy stuff for the house, but you didn't make your payments. Well, every bank and lender will check your credit before they advance funds. And so if your credit score was, 690, and then all of a sudden they do a credit check and it's 620, you might find that bank says, you know what, we're no longer interested in giving you a mortgage, so we're going to decline and close your file. You're going to need to go somewhere else. That's a bit of a disaster, and that's a pretty big problem. So make sure that if you have made an offer on a property that you're not doing anything with your credit until you've closed on the property. And even if you've closed on the property, it's still really important to keep your credit score high, make your payments, and keep that in check. So you can avoid some first-time home buying disasters by creating an account at emilynow.ca, getting an Emily score, see what you need in order to be approved, see what credit score you need, see what documents you need, see what the interest rates are going to be, how much income you have to make sure you have, and keep in mind that we're here to help you structure your deal as well. So if you have some questions, or if you're not really quite sure, or you've heard some of these disasters and you're going, oh, I want to make sure I don't get caught in that, you can talk to our service team, and they're really great at what they do, and they'd be happy to help you. So anyway, avoid those disasters, in particular if you're a first-time home buyer who's never done this before. Hopefully this has given you a little bit of insight into some things that you don't want to find, some situations you don't want to find yourself in.